Good morning. So now we'll be talking about the action potential part 2. So today is what, 22nd, right? 22nd. So that's Thursday. What I was thinking was that is on Friday and Saturday, these 2 days, we take in depth about the entire nervous system and nervous system in such a way that actually we touch some of the very important fundas of sympathetic nervous system and parasympathetic nervous system, along with the neurotransmitters, along with how they are controlled, along with how they are secreted, what would be the drugs which will be acting on them, right, and much more. So the way we are completing this action potential, right, today you'll get a feel of it. Same way for these 2 days we take this thing. Obviously, this portion is purely based on what is asked in USMLE. Right? So indirectly, that's what my wish is, to prepare you and to give you that taste that what they really ask. Okay. So this week there won't be any exam, but yes, I would wish really that on Sunday you spend the Sunday revising all the topics very properly, what we shall be doing or what we did from Monday and what we shall be doing till Saturday, right? So all the topics covered from Monday to Saturday, you should revise them properly, because again the next week we'll take some very interesting topics and obviously same concept, something which is vital for the USMLE step 1, right? Okay, so let's start with our action potential. Now yesterday you learnt about the action potential in neurons, right? Now today this is part 2, so our focus would be on two things. One, myocytes, that how it really works when it comes to cardiac muscles, right? How those cardiac muscles, they are so different as compared to others. And in the second part we shall be talking about that what happens in case of those pacemakers. How come they are so self-motivated? So self-motivated. Now logic tells that first we should be taking pacemaker and then the myocyte, right? But we are taking first the myocytes, then the pacemakers. There is a superb reason behind this. And that reason is that, say, in case of myocytes, when we'll see various stages, we'll be watching various stages, and these stages will be pretty different than what really occurred in neuron, right? In neuron, things were pretty easy, pretty simple. Over here, there will be so many new things. So it's like a complete process. So once we understand this complete process and it would come to, say, pacemakers, we'll find that these pacemakers, they are like revolver, right? They just fire, right? Their function is just produce the impulse and let it go. Bus, right? Nothing more. While in case of, say, cardiac muscles, it is necessary for them that muscles should contract, muscles should relax. During that time, there should not be another pulse, otherwise it leads to, say, arrhythmias, right? All those features. Pacemaker, tak, 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 right? Keep on firing at a regular pace. When needed, when the signal comes, heart needs to pump faster, so then the speed of the trigger increases. So that's the reason in case of pacemaker, there is a completely different concept, and that's why we'll be taking it afterwards once we have understood the myocytes or the cardiac muscles very properly. ठीक? So let's start with the first part. So when we say action potential, it is nothing but we have to just understand that it is simple, rapid, electrical charges, right? Rapid electrical charges or discharges which are constantly flowing, right? And they propagate from one cell to another cell, right? To cell, to cell, to cell. That's how it goes, and it's like a wave, right? It's like a wave, and that wave moves. But in case of, say, cardiac muscle, there is one important thing. That is the entire muscle should contract together, right? That's not the case in skeletal muscle. Over here, the entire muscle should contract together. So that's why there would be a special mechanism, right? So in case of heart, right, we are dealing with the heart. So in case of heart, that's our SA node. Let's say this SA node is nothing but a pacemaker, right? Pacemaker who sets the speed, right? He's who sets the speed. And this pacemaker will be sending impulses to all these myocytes. So our focus is right now on these myocytes. ठीक? So we'll be dealing with just one cardiac cell first, right? This SA node, that would be our second topic. This is our first, this would be our second topic, right? So that's how we'll start. Okay. If you really compare it with skeletal muscle, so in skeletal muscle, the only changes in skeletal muscles, right? This impulse that, okay, contract, that comes from nerves, right? This comes from the nerves. So it means there would be a junction between the nerves and the muscle, and that is what we call as the neuromuscular junction. Pretty interesting, right? So it means that when it comes to nerves, there is a method. When it comes to muscles, there is a method. When it comes to neuromuscular junction, there is something what is happening. When it comes to pacemaker, there is a completely different mechanism. And when it comes to myocytes, their function is that work together. That's their purpose. So that's why they will be working in a different style, right? How interesting, right? Everything is so synchronized and so properly managed. So let's start. Yes, clinical questions. I mean, clinical questions means what? So what exactly your question is? Clinical questions means? For today you are asking? Okay, let me know. So let's start with the okay. Yesterday topic was complete. Yesterday we completed the topic. So nothing is left out in that. Achha. So here it is that now we start with one cardiac muscle, one cardiac myocyte, right? One cardiac myocyte. So this is the our playground. This is where the action would occur. Now first, and the very interesting thing is, and that is, we keep on drawing the graph together, right? There is resting membrane potential. So this particular cell is at rest. So that is what is called as the resting membrane potential. And we know that during resting membrane potential, all the ions which are going in and out, they are all balanced, right? Effectively, nothing is happening, right? Effectively, there is no change in. So this is like, say, minus 90 millivolt, right? Now, when the neighbor contracts, right? When the neighbor contracts, when the neighbor, there is depolarization in the neighbor, so there would be leakage. There would be leakage of calcium channels from the neighbor, right? And these calcium channels, these calcium, they enter via these calcium channels, right? This is what is called as the gap junction. Actually, this is called as the gap junction, which is a specialty of these cardiac myocytes, cardiac muscles. This is what is called as the gap junction. So because of the gap junction, those positive ions, they are coming inside. What really happens is that from minus 90, it gradually, right, it rises, right? It reaches to a new level. Let's say this new level is minus 70 millivolt, right? And this is what is called as the threshold potential. And we know it so well that whenever the word threshold potential comes, that is invariably who will come into picture? Those voltage gated, right? Voltage gated channels, they are going to open, right? Because they will be leading to something which is very drastic, right? So same principle. But remember this is a very special phase, right? It is because of this gap junction. And this is when those calcium, small amount of calcium, they just peep in, right? They seep in. Dhire, dhire, they come, they take it to minus 70, and now action comes, right? And that action is those sodium channels, right? Those sodium channels, they open. These are sodium channels and these are voltage gated. Voltage gated. At what voltage are they operating? They are operating at minus 70 millivolt. They are operating at minus 70 millivolt. And when the sodium channel is open, yes, sodium will start pouring in, right? Sodium will start pouring in. So immediately the whole thing goes towards very heavy depolarization. It shoots. It crosses zero. It goes to plus 20, right? So this phase is depolarization, right? Pretty clear. So this we call as the depolarization. Now from here, right, from depolarization, it moves to the next level. Now see, something very interesting occurs over here. As soon as it reaches at this point, these sodium channels, they are closed. So sodium channels which are voltage gated, right, voltage gated, they are closed. They are closed, right? And it is at this point another voltage gated channels they open. What happened? Can you hear me? Is it all good? From my side, the things appear okay. Why the message has come? Okay, is there any frame drop? Is everything good? Things are working okay? Can you hear me? Can you just type some message? Okay, all good? Fine, fine, fine. Sure, all fine. So I was talking about that these sodium voltage gated channels, they close, right? And then there is opening of potassium gated channels. So those channels which were, right, these are special voltage gated potassium channels. So we change the color, and over here potassium voltage gated. So these are the channels which are operating at plus 20. So here are the potassium ones. So potassium will be throwing the potassium out, right? And these are voltage gated. And it starts going out, right? As it starts going out, obviously there would be a drop, right? There would be a drop. And this portion is called as the initial repolarization, right? So things are becoming negative, right? So it is initial repolarization. Then something different occurs at this point, something different. So let's draw it over here. So this is like after initial repolarization, right? It means we are talking about, say, it was this, and this. It is at this junction, right, over here. So at this point, new calcium channels, they open. And these are also voltage operated, voltage gated, right? So here is a cell, right? We have now removed all other channels. Right now, only two channels will be operating. There would be one channel, this channel which is for calcium, and there is one another channel, and this channel which is only for potassium, right? So this is for potassium, in which potassium will be thrown outside. Today we can't attend your lecture. Okay. Yeah, I can see the number is quite less. Well, maybe because at the same time Georgian lecture is going on. Acha, acha, acha. That must be the reason. No worries, because in any case, this is getting recorded, right? So you can always watch it at a later stage. No issues. Don't worry, right? Just let me know, because, or if someone can send me the schedule of your lectures, because sometimes it happens like when we talk live, right? So in case if you got any query, so we can really discuss it. And what I was talking about, the sessions which we are planning for tomorrow and day after tomorrow. Just let me know. Just mail me your timings, right? So then we'll see accordingly. Okay? Just mail me your timings, your schedule, that what are the timings of your lectures. So this is potassium and this is calcium, and what we are watching is after repolarization, that means precisely at this point. Precisely at this point. And this is completely different what we saw till this point. These calcium channels, when they, okay, okay, ठीक है, ठीक है, let me know. So these calcium gated, voltage gated calcium channels, because of that, calcium would gush in, right? Calcium would come inside. But at the same time, potassium is leaving, right? Potassium is going out. So what really happens? Calcium ions, right? Calcium ions, they are coming in, and potassiums, they are going out, right? And due to this, this is a phase. This is the phase on which we'll be, yeah, bye. This is the phase on which we'll be focusing, because this is the phase when heart actually contracts, right? So when we'll be talking about anti-arrhythmic drugs, right? I'll show you a method to remember. Say you have to just remember Security Bank of Kansas City, right? Or uh, say I remembered it like Subhash Chandra Bose School University, right? So but this thing, it tells you about all the groups or the classification of anti-arrhythmic drugs. We'll talk about it, right? But its base is on this. Its base is here. So it tells that it is this phase when those myocytes actually contract, right? Myocyte contract here, right? And then after contraction, this point, right? So this is called as the plateau, Plateau, plateau. So it is where calcium, which is incoming, it is equal to potassium, which is outgoing. So electroneutrality sort of thing, right? They both are completely same. So that's what really happens at the plateau, right? After some time, these calcium channels, right, they are exhausted. So those voltage gated calcium channel, they close, right? So here calcium channels close. Sodium channel is still working. So now there would be a drop, right? Now there would be a drop. So this is due to potassium channels which are still working, right? And they are throwing the potassium out. So cell is becoming negative, negative, negative. And we call this thing as repolarization, right? Repolarization. Good one, right? So point is that can we say that it is the just I'm just telling you one sentence, right? And just you remember this sentence, that it is the influx calcium influx which induces the cardiac contraction, cardiac myocyte contraction, right? Very true. You got this idea, right? It is the calcium influx, because this is the point, this is the plateau, right? When the myocyte is actually contracting. So at plateau, why it happened? Because of the calcium channels they opened. When the calcium channels opened, that calcium would gush in. This calcium which is coming inside, will play a role into the contraction. So it is at that point. So if you want to prevent that cardiac contraction, right, that it should not go through that high level, you should control this calcium, right? So immediately the muscle contraction will be coming in control, right? How beautiful. That's the reason that these graphs, all these processes, they are of such importance. ठीक? So cardiac myocyte contraction, it occurs at this point, and it is due to calcium influx, and this calcium influx is voltage gated, right? And which level? And it is at the level of when there is a plateau into our graph. This thing you will not find in pacemaker, right? Now it makes sense, because in pacemaker would say, why should I wait, right? Pacemaker is like thak bullet. When the bullet hits, right, the wave starts. Bus, that's the purpose of pacemaker. So this is the reason that in case of pacemaker, patterns are going to change, right? And when it comes to pharmacology, when it comes to your medicine, these are the things which will be governing specific symptoms, right? Okay. So on this page, now we just draw that graph, right? We just draw that graph. That story started with minus 90 millivolt. You know it so well. This is the resting membrane potential, or the resting phase. Then why do they say that if you have cramps, then you have less calcium? That's true. Because what happens when you have got cramps, right? When the cramps is what? Muscles are contracting very fast, because it is your skeletal muscles which you can see, right? Muscles which you can really see that yes, they are contracting, right? In case of heart, if the heart, instead of beating like this, if the heart is beating like this, it is an arrhythmia, right? It is arrhythmia. So there also calcium plays every time, right? When we'll be discussing actually the actin myosin sliding mechanism in depth, right? That where the calcium plays a role, because calcium is needed for the contraction. So if there is large amount of calcium present, the muscle to then keep on duk, they'll keep on working, right? If it is synchronized, so then it gives power. But when it is out of synchronization, so then it leads to cramp, or it leads to arrhythmias. That is what is to be prevented, right? So that's the reason. Achha, so this was our resting phase, right? It is resting membrane potential, or also it is called as the resting phase. And then from resting phase, from the neighbor, right? Neighbor tells के लो हमारे यहाँ से एक मिठाई आई, and that मिठाई is calcium, right? थोड़ी सी, right? It is via what? Via gap junction, because this is the speciality. This is the speciality of cardiac cells, right? So it reaches to minus 70. It reaches to minus 70. At minus 70, what happens? there is doom, right? This is always by fast acting. These are very fast, voltage gated, right? Voltage gated. I'm just writing voltage, right? Sodium channels. These sodium channels, bahar sodium is always zyada, right? Cell ke andar come, तो they just all gush in. So this sodium, it comes in. Calcium also comes in, right? Down means we'll consider that it is coming in. So we call this thing as obviously depolarization, right? Dadagiri, right? Things are becoming positive. At the peak, sodium channels, they say कि बस अपना काम खत्म, so they close, right? But this is where the potassium channels, they'll come into picture. So potassium channels, they open. These potassium channels, they are also voltage gated, because then and then they will be getting operated at plus 20, right? So they start. Now once potassium channels start, they don't close that fast, right? They will keep on working. So these potassium voltage gain, they are lambi race ka ghoda. So they start throwing the potassium out. The moment potassium is going out, cell is becoming negative. So cell starts taking a down trip, right? And this is just the beginning. So we call this thing as initial repolarization, right? Initial repolarization. But then comes, that's the most beautiful part, and that's the plateau, right? This is the plateau, right? We can call it plateau. PLA, a plateau, a flat surface. This is the plateau where potassiums, so they are working, but the calcium channels, they kick in, right? Calcium channels, they kick in. So those calcium channels, once again, they are voltage operated, right? So they open up. And when they open up, what calcium will be doing? Sodium is going out, calcium will be coming in. So it is at this point, because it is plateau, it is the amount of potassium which is going out is equal to amount of calcium which is coming in. So they both balance each other, right? Ionically, they both balance each other. And then comes another dip. This is because at this junction, calcium channels, they say कि बस अब मैं थक गया, right? अपना काम खत्म. So they are closed. So because those potassiums, so they are happily working, right? Lambi race ke ghode. So this is now the real repolarization, and it goes all the way, right? And at resting membrane, right, it once again, it reaches to the normal level, that is the resting phase, right, when it balances. So once again, this is the resting phase, or the resting membrane potential is acquired. This is the game of cardiac myocytes. Now we give some numbers, right? Till this point, to avoid confusion, I avoided those numbers. So here is, this is what is called as the stage 1, right? Or let me write, that's okay, we write it over here, or we write here also. This is called as stage 1. Stage 1 is initial repolarization, right? This depolarization is called as stage 0, right? This is stage 0. This is stage 1, that is the plateau. That is the initial repolarization. And then this plateau is called as the stage 2, right? So that is called as the stage 2. This repolarization which is happening is called as the stage 3. And this resting phase is called as the stage 4. So we started our journey from stage 4. Then from stage 4, it went to stage 0, that is depolarization. From depolarization, it went to stage 1, that is the initial repolarization. From initial repolarization, it went to stage 2, that is the plateau. From plateau, it went to repolarization, that is stage 3, and then back to stage 4, right? So this is how all these 4 stages, they are occurring, and this is a full, complete action potential in case of myocytes, right? So this is how the cardiac myocytes, they actually work, right? Now we move on to the pacemakers, right? So once these are there, once we have understood that, okay, these are the 5 phases, right? These are the 5 phases. So we started with 4 and 0 and 1 and 2 and 3, right? So that's how. So this is the resting phase. The 0, that was the depolarization. Then 1, that was the initial repolarization. Then 2 was plateau, and 3 was the repolarization, and then it was going back to 4, which was the resting phase, and cycle keeps on repeating. In few seconds, or in few seconds, so it is this entire thing, right? See, you have asked a very interesting question, right? Let me draw it. Heart beats at what rate? Normally, right? Heart beats at the rate of, say, 72 beats per minute, right? Let's make it, just for our understanding, to make things easy, 60 beats per minute, right? 60 beats per minute. This means that when the heart contracts, so within 1 second, it is not only that heart has to contract and heart has to relax and back to the stage where it second contraction should start. So every second the whole cycle should be complete, right? This is when the contraction occurs, and baki ka time is the relaxation, when the heart relaxes, right? So that it is ready at this point for the next contraction. In 1 second, the entire process is complete, right? 1 second. So that's the reason that these sodium channels, these calcium channels, when the calcium enters, right, enters quickly, so that this plateau and that plateau, it leads to contraction. So within 1 second. Now if we come to that, if the heart rate is 72, that would just take 0.8 second to complete this entire cycle, right? Right, within 0.8 seconds. So now we wonder that when we exercise, right, when we exercise, and let's say our heart rate goes to 180, right, it goes to 180, so that is just within zero point 0.3 seconds, within 0.33 seconds, right, it is like 3 beats per second. So in 0.33 second, this entire process is complete, right? So how amazing, means calcium comes, calcium triggers, that depolarization occurs, initial repolarization, plateau, repol, everything, right? So it is lightning fast, and still things are so disciplined, right? So these are the yeah, Godspeed. Seriously, right? Another interesting thing about cardiac muscles is the discipline. They say we shall all work together, because heart is not contracting like this, that one by one muscles, right? Heart as a whole contracts. So that means there is one more mechanism behind it. When the whole heart, the entire cardiac muscle, they contract within that synchronization, right? And it would be the pacemaker who will be firing these signals, right? So now let's learn the pacemaker, what they do, and how are they so different as compared to our normal, as compared to our myocytes, right? So here it is. In case of pacemaker, one who sets the pace, right? Simple, one who sets the pace. And pace means speed, speed at which the heart should beat, heart should beat. That is purely controlled by these pacemakers, because it is pacemaker who is firing, and then the heart muscle simply follows their instruction. Another thing is, it is not only the speed. Speed is one thing. Second, it is the rhythm. Rhythm. What is the size of artificial pacemaker? They are very small. They are pretty small. See, there are various methods of artificial pacemaker. Say one is when the circuit part is implanted and then only that electrode goes and it is at the site of SA node, right? That is how. Otherwise, the size of size of pacemaker, they are constantly working to reduce the size. But the biggest problem is the battery, right? This battery, it lasts for some particular time, right? So because we can't say कि चलो open and read like a mobile, right? You charge the that pacemaker and then it is working, right? So that cannot be done. Right? Otherwise, the people would be running nanotechnology. Actually, it is nanotechnology. And these batteries, they are super powered, right? They last for quite a long time. This is the reason that when someone is subjected to MRI under any circumstances, right? This question, it is vital to ask that any pacemaker, any pacemaker implanted into your body, right? Because if they are subjected to magnetic resonance imaging or the MRI, the strength of the magnet is say 1.5 Tesla, right? This 1.5 Tesla, it is a super powerful magnet, right? So if you have got a say even a small iron coin, right? That coin would go like a bullet, right? It will go at such high pace, right? Which can cause injury. So that's the reason that your cell phones, your wristwatch, right? All those things, right? They can literally crash in presence of this strong magnetism. But the dangerous, life-threatening is this pacemaker, right? This pacemaker. So because it is circuit, so immediately that circuit would fail. So that's why in magnetic resonance imaging, it is vital to ask for this question, right? Pacemaker. And the second question which one must ask is any implants, right? Any implants. Because in implants, if the iron is used, so then that can lead to major accidents, right? If someone has got the fracture and nail and plates, they are there. So under that strong magnet, right, it will literally pull and it can dislocate and it can cause a problem. So that's why these subjects, those who are having pacemaker and the implant, they should not and they will not be taken for MRI. For them, only the CT scan, right? Because in CT scan, radiation is used. So radiation has got nothing to do with the say pacemaker or implants. That's fine for them, right? So they work fine. Ultrasound is safe for them, nothing happens. But MRI, well, it is dangerous only for such cases. Otherwise MRI is very safe. In movies they come ripping out. But yeah, but the thing is, say MRI is very safe, MRI is fantastic, there is no radiation, but this is the point. Okay, so chalo on to the pacemaker, right? On to the pacemaker. Regarding this rhythm, what I was talking, that when we when we learn the ECG, right, we'll see that how beautifully it goes, right? Say P, Q, R, S, T, right? How beautifully those waves they go. So this is the SA rhythm, sinoatrial node rhythm. When this thing goes, it means that SA node is in charge, right? Sinoatrial node is in charge. Now, in some of the stupid films, right, they say that yes, वो पड़ा हुआ है and they say कि अच्छा इनके heart में problem हो गया है, this that all sorts of things doctor is telling, and in the background you see that yeah, wonderful ECG is going on. There is no problem. It is going so good, right? So it happens in one of the movie, say the department of neurology, and the spelling was department of, this was correct spelling, department of neurology. Right? So someone who must have painted the board, right? Because it would be an nakli hospital. So someone must have said कि अच्छा ये जरा board paint करके ले आओ. So he must have written like this, neurology. So he thought that okay, this is weak. So he, yes, where this Sanjay Dutt and there was some other actor, right? When they were, he was doctor and he was telling, "Arey sir, ऐसा है वैसा है." In the background, it was Department of Neurology. I feel like when they are spending so much of rupees, they don't understand this thing. I got screenshot of that. I took the photograph when in blood transfusion. Munna Bhai MBBS? No, no, it was not in Munna Bhai MBBS. It was in some other very kachra movie. Munna Bhai though was quite an interesting movie. One of the men who hacked the pacemaker. Is it possible? Yeah, that is possible. Because if the pacemaker, now many of the pacemakers, right? Many of the pacemakers. I think I also saw that movie in which the pacemaker is hacked and then he was increasing the rates. Yeah, I also saw that movie. Possible to hack if the in a very advanced stage when the pacemakers they are controlled by the app, right? So so that is possible. In some one another movie, so there were three blood donors, right? Which I always tell about the blood transfusion that this is impossible. Three blood donors, right? Some Amitabh Bachchan, Shashi Kapoor, and then there was one more actor, right? And they were giving blood to their ma, and then this one tube, then this is second tube, and this third tube, right? Everyone joining at one point, and then from here directly it is going to the mother. Amar Akbar Anthony. Must be. Must be. I mean, and then the doctor was auscultating. You know where he was auscultating? He was auscultating on his face. I said, boss, बंद करो. Means auscultating on face. अच्छा लग रहा है आपको. आप ठीक है. हाँ, this means auscultating on neck. मैंने कहा, boss, what are you doing? Right, and this circuit, and then the camera will be moving all the way from here, right? Then they are showing the faces of these three actors, huh, all tense, right? Then watching towards each other. Arey baap re baap. So my question to all these movie makers is only one, when you are spending so much of money, यार थोड़ा तो logical दिखा दो. Okay, so let's come back to our point. But seriously, after some time when you'll start watching the movie, the moment that ECG comes, immediately you say, yeah, but this is normal ECG. And then you will watch, acha, blood pressure 120 by 80, right? Perfect, right? Respiratory rate, it is 12 per minute. Yeah, he is absolutely fine, right? And then वो दिखा रहा है right, and he goes, and the ECG and everything is going fine, right? कम से कम at least focus the camera only on his face, because in the background everything is going fine. हाँ, it happens. Okay, so pacemaker. So now we talk about pacemaker, right? One speciality, and that is automaticity. It is called as the automaticity. Without anything, they keep on working. But no, there has to be something which should trigger this pacemaker also, right? Because the if you really calculate, pacemaker comprise of just less than 1% of the heart cells. Less than 1% of the heart cells. And there are two, right? There is SA node. From SA node, it will go to AV node. SA stands for sinoatrial node, right? It is called as the sinoatrial node. And AV is atrioventricular. That is the junction of atria and ventricular node. At this point, I would tell one important point which you must remember. How many conditions can be diagnosed from ECG? Oh, hundreds. Siddhant, hundreds. And that's what I was about to say, and you asked this question. That do remember, right? One important thing, right? This we'll understand SA node, AV node, everything. But this AV node is the only window. AV node is the only window by which the impulses which are on the upper part of the heart, they will be traveling to the lower part of the heart, right? So this is vital. So in case if anything happens to AV node, right, signals won't be going, right? So if we say this, so in upper part there is atria, right atrium, left atrium, atria. Lower part there are ventricles, right? There are ventricles. So it means from SA node, nice, fine, powerful, good signals from SA node they have started, they will reach to AV node via those internodal tracks, right? They will be sending signals to the left atrium also, right? Left atrium is contracting. But regarding the control of ventricles, this AV node, atrioventricular node, is the only node via through which that passes, because this area, this entire area is completely insulated. They will not allow to pass anything. So via AV node only this thing. So this is the only window available. Its importance when we learn ECG. But do remember this fact, right? This is the only window for conduction between upper and lower heart. And in case if other windows they develop, that leads to so many complications, so many syndromes, right? Acha. From lower part, from here there is, it is bundle of his, right? Writing his in capital, reminding you that there is nothing like bundle of her, right? This his is a name. And then we have got, they are called as the Purkinje fibers. Purkinje fibers. So this is all a neural structure, right? This is where this conduction will be going on. But on both the sides, we have the cardiac muscles. So think it like that these are the tracks which are super express highway, on which the signals will be passing at a very high pace, right? They just go like a flash. So when they go like a flash, they will immediately be passing on to the next one, right? That is these cardiac muscles. So that those cardiac muscles, they start contracting. Achha. We move to our initial pacemaker, right? We move on to our initial pacemaker, that is the SA node. So let's start with that journey, right? How they really handle this automaticity. There is one very fine name. By the way, this entire system, where we have got electrical activity, right? See why heart is fantastic. There is electrical activity. There would be mechanical activity, because beating of the heart, contracting of the heart, it is mechanical. You got it, right? It is mechanical activity. And this entire beating, right, that is because of sodium, potassium, calcium, right? All of them, they are working together. So there is chemical activity. It is the combination of electrical, mechanical and chemical activity which leads to a complete discipline, complete rhythm. And this is what is called as the functional. It is called as the functional syncytium. It is called as, yeah, syncytium. Functional syncytium means everything is occurring together and still everything is in balance, right? Everything is occurring with a very proper discipline. So at this point, think it like that these tracks, right, they are high speed tracks. These tracks are high speed tracks on which those pacemakers, they are sending the messages, right? And they spread to the cardiac myocytes on both the sides, so that all of them, they contract, right? So this is like a wave which is passing, and all of them, they start contracting, right? This is the mechanism how it works. So let's start with our first portion, right, where this cell comes. So we take it on a next page, and this time, like last time, we draw the table because it gives us a good idea. And this cell is our pacemaker cell, right? This cell is our pacemaker cell. Situation same, minus over here it is minus 65 millivolt, right? Minus 65 millivolt. And when I say that this is the phase, this is phase 4. So phase 4 was resting phase, right? This is the resting phase. And now starts our first action. This is really very funny, right? There is one channel. There is one channel, right? This channel, it is called as the HCN. HCN. Now, if this HCN is actually hyperpolarization. Now, do you remember what was hyperpolarization? Hyperpolarization is when things are becoming very negative, right? When things are becoming very negative and when they just go deep, right? Negative. So this is hyperpolarization activated, right? Hyperpolarization activated. And these channels, they are called as the cyclic nucleotide, right? So they are, that's why C, cyclic nucleotide channels. So H, C, N, right? These are the channels. Achha. Now these are hyperpolarization activated cyclonucleotide activated channels, or you can say activated channels. When they open, they'll be allowing specific, that is the sodium, right? Now see, this is funny. Why this is different? Normally the calcium was coming into picture. Over here it is the sodium which comes. Right? These channels are SA and AV. Yeah, that's right. These are for pacemakers, right? These channels, these are for pacemakers. So you'll see them on SA node and AV node. That's right. Even Purkinje fibers, because Purkinje fibers are also pacemaker, but they'll be setting the pace at a very low rate, right, into 30s. So here it is, the hyperpolarization activated cyclic nucleotide activated channels, or the HCN channels, they will open and they will allow sodium to come in. When the sodium is coming in, this rises, right? This rises. And at minus 50 millivolt, there would be, as you must have guessed, right, there would be the depolarization. But this thing is called as the, right, this thing is called as the funny current. And these channels are also called as the funny channel, right? Funny current or funny channel. They say कि अचानक सोडियम कहाँ से आ गया, right? But so scientists must have found it funny. So that's why they said that this is a funny channel, right? Or the funny current. When the sodiums, they are dipping in, correct? So at minus 50, those voltage gated channels, they open. So here is now those voltage gated channels, they are opening. Now these voltage gated channels are calcium. So calcium voltage operated channels, they are there. The idea is sodium is already entering, right? So till this point, if you see, every time it was happening that the depolarization was because of sodium, right? Voltage gated sodium channels, that's what we were telling. But now things are funny, right? It is the other way around. Calcium started, and at threshold potential, that's right, at threshold potential, Now the calcium channels are opening. But so this is the thing, right? So over here it goes up, right? And this is where the calcium channels, which are voltage operated, and the calcium gushes in, right? So now calcium is also coming, sodium is also coming, and this is the funny channel, right? Or the funny current. That's what it really happens, and it is because of that in of sodium, right? And these sodiums, they are HCN channels, right? Also called as the L type, but don't worry, just keep in mind because this was one of the question. They are also called as these L type calcium channels, or clinically usable calcium channels. That is also there, right? But okay, so let's simplify it, right? Let's simplify. So we just write this, that is when at minus 65, those first one, that is the sodium channels, sodium is entering in, this is HCN, it is funny, and then it rises. This is the threshold, minus 50. That's where the calcium channels, they open. These calcium channels, they are voltage gated, calcium is coming in, and that's why we call this thing as apna depolarization, right? Depolarization. But the interesting part is this thing is super fast. This thing is super fast. So this is within zero point 0.5 millisecond, the fatak, this entire process is completed, right? This is super fast. Say 0.5 millisecond, right? Blazing fast. Once it reaches to that level, right, where it reaches to all the way to the plus levels, right? So it crosses this 0 and then reaches to plus 10 millivolt. It is at this point, right? During this phase, the calcium channels, they were open. Now calcium channels, they are going to close, right? Because this is what, if we give the number, so this is the number 4, the resting phase, right? This would be depolarization. So we'll call this as phase 0, right? The depolarization phase. Then what do you expect? This is where things would be different. Phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 1 was initial repolarization, correct? And phase 2 was plateau. Faster than the speed of light? No, speed of light is 3 lakh kilometers per second, or you can say it is 1,86,000 miles per second, right? That is the speed of light. That is what is called as the C. 3 lakh kilometers per second. So we just can't compare this thing with the speed of light, right? Because these are all astronomical values. So speed of light though is just too high. But yes, all the processes which are occurring inside our body, they are really pretty fast, right? Can't compare it with speed of light because that is the too high. The thing is, this is not the distance, right? Speed of sound or speed of light. This is not the distance, right? Things are traveling in a very small space. But what is happening in just one cell, that is all interesting. Achha. So over here, right, over here, this is super fast. At this point, we change the color, right? At this point, calcium channels, they will close, right? Calcium channel, they will close. And what would happen? Potassium channels would open. Potassium open. See how big the difference is. Over here, the initial repolarization was occurring because of the potassium channels, right? Potassium was leaving, right? Was going out. So cell is losing its positivity and it is coming down. And at that point, plateau, calcium kicks in, right? So calcium starts entering into the cell when the potassium is leaving. So that's why there was plateau. Now the calcium and potassium, so their roles have completely changed. Calcium is working here. Now the calcium has stopped. So the point is, in pacemaker, there is no phase 1 and phase 2. There is no phase 1, there is no phase 2, right? It means there is no initial repolarization and there is no plateau. They are not there, right? Remember this, no phase 1 and phase 2 in pacemakers. In pacemakers, right? You won't find it. Pacemaker, they don't need it, right? For them, that's why the graph would be like a bullet shot. So from this point, calcium channel closes, right? Potassiums, they open. And the moment potassium open, potassium will start leaving an immediate dip, right? And that dip is nothing but repolarization. Repolarization. Oh, repolarization. So that is where the potassium which is leaving, right? So that's how, say, it keeps on balancing. And then once again it will go, and then the phase 4 would come. So repolarization was what? Phase number 3, right? So we have phase 4, phase 0, 1 and 2 skipped. Then once again, say this is 1 and 2 skipped. This one would be phase 3, repolarization, and then back to this. So 4, 0, 3, 1, 2 skipped, and then it continues. Right? So this is the mechanism by which pacemakers they fire. Right? Now see, arrhythmia. Arrhythmia. Arrhythmia means what? That heart is beating, right? Heart is beating in a very synchronized way, right? There could be tachycardia, or there could be bradycardia, bradycardia or tachycardia, right? Tachycardia means heart is beating, but heart is beating faster, right? It is just a fast beat, right? Bradycardia, heart is beating slower, it is slow beat, but the ECG pattern, that remains the same, right? That remains the same, a nice pattern which is constantly going on. When this rhythm is broken, so now I'm writing two words. I just want to give you an idea that if I say regularly irregular, right? This is not a literature class, but when we say regularly irregular, are you understanding it? Regularly irregular. So it means, think it like this if we really want to draw. So here is our entire timeline. This is 0 second, this is 1 second, this is 2 second, this is 3 second, this is 4 seconds, right? So that's how we, up to this point we calculate. And things are going like this. A wave which is going nice and smooth, and something garbad, something garbad, something wrong, something wrong. This is irregularity. And it is occurring at a regular pace, regular time. So this is called as regularly irregular, right? Just these two concepts you have to understand, right? This will help you a lot when we'll actually be discussing all those abnormalities. So I'm feeding this thing for the conceptual part, regularly irregular. And the reverse of it, it would be irregularly regular. In your books, if I say that this is a normal pattern, right? A normal pattern, a normal sine wave, right? A normal sine wave, this is our normal pattern. So over here, if I draw like this, can you draw irregularly regular? I'll give you 10 seconds. Try to draw how irregularly regular would B. This is normal. This is regular, right? So how the irregularly regular would look like, or irregularly regular should look like? Try to draw and then I'll draw. 10 seconds and then we'll draw. You need not to be very artistic, but just do it, right? Acha, let's draw. It is telling irregularly regular, right? So something is irregular, but right, say this regularity is coming irregularly, right? So this is normal, right? So we put 1 second, 2 second, 3 second, 4 second, 5 second. So this is regular, and then there is something error. Regular, 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 something irregular, right? And then occurring again, again, right? And regular again, regular again. So here you cannot find any pattern. That things are regular, right? See this, from here to here it is good, here to here it is good, here to here it is good, right? But there is no pattern. It means, think about the ECG. Think about the patient. Patient is having irregular beats. Some when the ECG, there are PQRST complex, PQRST complex, right? PQRST complex. So here, this is a good thing. So normal ECG would keep on moving like this, right? This, and it keeps on going. In between, if you find that at every specific interval, if there is change in this wave, right? There is some extra wave. There is some extra wave. There is some extra wave. So they are coming at a regular interval, right? So regularly irregular, right? Regularly irregular. At a regular interval, at a definite interval, abnormalities, they are coming up. It could be missing a beat, right? So every 5 seconds, if there is one beat is missed. So when it is like every 5 seconds, so this is a perfect time, regular time, right? And there is some abnormality. Something is becoming abnormal. So that is what is called as the regularly irregular, right? Be crystal clear in that, where the time scale is fixed. While in this case, things are normal, but sometimes they become normal, sometimes they become abnormal, right? So that's what is called as the irregularly regular. These normal beats which are coming, but sometimes they are normal, sometimes they are going abnormal, right? More when we'll be discussing about some conditions, right? Especially when the ECG. I want you to remember this Kansas City, Security Bank of Kansas City. Or I used to remember it like Subhash Chandra Bose Kul University, or college. I used to remember it like that, right? But anyway, this is much easier. Say security, anything is fine. Security Bank of Kansas City. And interestingly, both these things, they are there. Huh? Even in reality, there is a Security Bank of Kansas City, and there is Subhash Chandra Bose Kul College. It is there. Right? What I'm trying to tell you is that in NT, yeah, okay, we'll talk about why the shock is given, right? So anti arrhythmic drugs, they are divided into four or class, right? Or the so class 1, class 2, class 3, and class 4, and class 4. So Security Bank of Kansas City. This is sodium. This is beta blocker. This is potassium, and this is calcium. These drugs, they will be playing with these ions, right? Just keep this thing in mind. Regarding why the shock is given, right? Why the shock is given. Simply to reset electrical abnormalities. This shock is so high, right? So that all those electrical activities, they are reset. Then to restart the heart. As we know that in case of pacemakers, right? In case of pacemakers, if the pacemakers, there is automaticity. So they keep on because of those HCN channels. If it is not happening, so such high shock will open up these channels. So these channels are opened, and when these channels are opened, so it would trigger the pulse and things will keep on moving, right? So that's why that shock is given, which is into the form of high voltage, right? Voltage is high because any of the refractory period, right? That relative refractory period, that is taken care of. So high impulse, high shock, that would take it. So this is for today. Yes, yes. They are the same ones what you studied. So when we'll be learning the sympathetic and parasympathetic system, at that point once again this point would come. But this time you'll be able to understand it much better because you'll be understanding that what is really happening into that synaptic cleft, right? What games they are getting played between these neurotransmitters and how are they working, right? So it will take you to next level. Okay, so see you tomorrow. Thank you so much. And yeah, don't forget to send me a mail with your schedules because today there are hardly 10 12 people, right? So just let me know that what should be the good time for all of you. So don't forget to send the mail, right? So accordingly we can plan it. During defibrillation, they keep on increasing the voltage because it is, yeah, yeah, L type. Yeah, they are called as the L type calcium channels. And because in L type there is CAV1, CAV2, CAV3, and then in that there is 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, right? Such classification is there. So I'll show you that. But it is at a, because these channels, some are in heart, some are in retina, right? All those channels which are having specific purpose. So that is one of the type, right? 1.2. So why calcium supply in synaptic cleft? Yeah, it's a complete mechanism, right? Where those neurotransmitters, they will actually be handling the opening and closing of so many ion channels. So see you tomorrow, and tomorrow we'll be taking this complete topic of sympathetic and parasympathetic, right? Along with the what happens to the neurotransmitters and along with the drugs. Right? And actually, you would understand that yes, this is crystal clear that why this drug should act on this point. right? The same way, if we say if there is a calcium channel blocker, right? Just think of, just let me take one very quick practical implementation. Yeah, let's take it here. If we introduce a calcium channel blocker, what would happen? Calcium channel blocker, so it will block this calcium, right? The calcium which is entering, it would act absolutely here. Calcium channel blocker or the calcium blocker, right? Simple. Calcium is not allowed or calcium is not utilized. So obviously the contraction, this contraction won't occur, right? So heart would slow down, right? Heart would slow down whenever you are using calcium blocker, correct? So this is how it would work. So very specific. So we are talking about the fibrillate, we are talking about the anti-arrhythmia. So when the heart is contracting in a very haywire way, right? So this would immediately control it, and then once again heart would start beating in its normal way, right? So that is the calcium blocker. I told you this because very soon we'll be discussing anti-arrhythmic drugs in slightly more detail, right? It is completely fine at this point. If you can remember the names, that's fine. If you cannot, no worries, because as such, though, you'll be officially studying the pharmacology. But when it comes to USMLE, right? When it comes to USMLE, it is always said that for USMLE step 1, if you try to learn every topic separately, right? You learn anatomy, physiology, biochemistry, pharmacology separately, you won't be able to integrate it. Integrate means you won't be able to figure out that how are things interconnected. But if you learn it in this way, it would happen like this exam would be very easy for you because it develops what is called as the insight. But that is what is needed, right? The answer should spark in your brain that yes, because of these reasons, it happens. And that's what they ask, right? There would be very few questions where it would be said that, okay, say, what would be the nerve supply of biceps? No, no, no. Very rarely such questions occur, right? Those questions are like ratification questions. They hardly entertain such questions, right? So this is the reason we are working in this way. All right. Thank you so much. And we meet tomorrow, same time. Take care. Bye bye.